Right now at noon, storms and winter weather in the forecast this week. Nathan shows us what to expect. Plus, President Biden says he's open to talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but only under certain circumstances. The latest on efforts to avoid a war with Ukraine. Arkansas's Family Dollar stores temporarily closed and many items under a recall amid a rodent infestation inside a distribution facility. What shoppers need to know. And we'll get you plugged in on the latest trend, electric cars. They're taking over at some of the nation's biggest auto shows. Good afternoon, I'm Michael Aaron. Thanks so much for joining us here on this President's Day. Let's start with meteorologist Nathan Scott. Nathan, just a really gloomy day outside today. It could be a wild week for a lot of people.
It's going to be a busy week here in the thv-at-11 weather department. Michael, good afternoon to you. We've got a cold front that's going to make its way through the region going into tomorrow. Ahead of the cold front, showers and storms will start to really develop across the region late tonight and into early tomorrow morning. So we have a low risk of severe weather primarily for areas north and west of the metro tonight. And I'll break down on what the main concerns are coming up a little bit later, but that threat of severe weather shifts off to the east throughout the day on Tuesday. We've got a slim risk here in most of central Arkansas. On top of that, the storms could stay in place for a long period of time, and that could lead up to some areas of flash flooding. We do have a flood watch for all the counties shaded in the green. That's primarily for North Arkansas. Once the front makes its way through, colder air pours its way in and more moisture starts to arrive. So we're looking at a winter storm watch in effect for Northwest Arkansas at this time. I think that will be extended into Newton County, Searcy County, and other counties, primarily in the Ozarks, later today. So we've got a lot to talk about. I'll let you know when the chance of strong to severe thunderstorms really enter the picture and what we could see from those storms coming up later.
Lots to watch there, Nathan. Thank you. Our other top story this afternoon, the White House has not set a date or time, but President Biden says he's open to talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in order to avoid a war in Ukraine. Deborah Alfarone is monitoring the situation from the White House.
The White House says President Biden is willing to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but only if Russia does not invade Ukraine.
We're ready to continue diplomacy, including at the highest levels, to try to resolve this matter peacefully.
But time may be running out for a diplomatic solution.
Putin-Biden.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said at a meeting of Putin's Security Council that the West is not ready to accept Moscow's demand to stop NATO's eastward expansion. The U.S. says it has intelligence that President Putin has given the order to proceed with an invasion, and commanders on the ground are making plans to maneuver their units into position.
What we're seeing actually happen is Mr. Putin act on certainly what looks to be very clear intentions to invade Ukraine again.
Russia announced it is keeping tens of thousands of troops near Ukraine's border in Belarus, even though it says planned military exercises there are over. And there has been a dramatic escalation of shelling from Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. The White House says there are no firm plans for a meeting with Putin, but there are firm plans for how to respond if Russia invades. The president convened his National Security Council at the White House Sunday to discuss sanctions the U.S. and its allies will impose in the event of an attack.
A small war in Europe can grow if we don't stand up in strong and resolute terms to defend our allies and partners.
The U.S. sent a letter to the UN claiming Russia has a list of Ukrainians to be killed or sent to camps following a military occupation. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
Ukraine's foreign minister issued an urgent call for the UN Security Council to convene immediately to discuss sanctions against Russia in order to deter an invasion. Russia has veto power at the UN, making any sanctions unlikely. We are following several developing news stories this afternoon. First, this one. The Pulaski County Sheriff's Office is working to identify the body that was found along the banks of the Arkansas River last night. Water Patrol and detectives responded to the area near the North Shore Riverwalk Park in North Little Rock yesterday. The Sheriff's Office is waiting on the coroner's report. Following up with them, and we'll have the latest on air and right here, or rather on thv-at-noon.com. We're also waiting to learn more about a deadly shooting that happened in Conway over the weekend. Early Saturday morning, officers responded to a call about someone laying on the ground outside of an apartment complex on Rich Smith Lane. When they arrived, they found a man who had been shot and killed. Investigators have not released any more information on the victim or any possible suspects. Stay with THV11 and thv-at-noon.com for the very latest. Let's turn now to a major consumer alert for you. The Food and Drug Administration warns people not to use certain products purchased at Family Dollar stores in Arkansas and 5 other southern states. We want to warn you, some of the details and video in this story are disturbing, but we feel like it's important to share them with you so that you're informed and can take action if necessary. So all affected stores are now temporarily closed, and Family Dollar is issuing a voluntary recall affecting items purchased from more than 400 stores. This comes after a consumer complaint prompted the FDA to inspect the company's West Memphis distribution facility. Inspectors say they found live rodents, dead rodents, rodent feces, along with dead birds and bird droppings.
It's 6 to 1 hours in the warehouse. You're going to see them from hour 1 to hour 6 to 1. They be running around, they be on the floor, inside the boxes.
So what products are impacted? You can see a few on your screen, or should here in just a second. Human food, pet food, cosmetics, medical devices, and over-the-counter medicines are all part of that recall. Family Dollar says it's pulling affected products off the shelves. Customers that have purchased those products can return them to their local store without a receipt. The retailer tells the CBS station in Memphis that as of Friday, it is not aware of any illness reports or customer complaints related to the recall. However, anyone with health concerns should contact their doctor. We'll have much more on this story tonight at 5 and 6. Let's turn now to COVID-19 in Arkansas. The downward trend in cases continues, which is a hopeful sign. Here's a look at the latest numbers. The Department of Health reported just over 800 new cases on Saturday. Hospitalizations are also down this afternoon, just under 750 patients. 114 of those are on ventilators. COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations continue to fall across the U.S. Health experts point to herd immunity from the Omicron variant. They say to not get too comfortable, though. According to the CDC, 95% of Americans still live in a high-risk area for infection. The agency is still recommending universal masking, despite many states and communities cutting back or lifting restrictions. Amid the spread of COVID-19, the federal government is making 400 million free N95 masks available to Americans who want them. But where were those masks made? Ariane Daytil with our Verify team looks into that viewer question.
You can pick up free N95 masks at tens of thousands of pharmacies and health centers across the country. It's part of the Biden administration's plan to make items like masks and tests more accessible to Americans amid the spread of COVID-19. All of the masks in the program are approved by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. NIOSH-approved masks meet minimum construction performance and respiratory protection standards. Since the free mask program was announced, Verify has received a lot of questions about where these masks were made. So let's verify. Are the free N95 masks from the federal government manufactured in the U.S.? Our sources are the Department of Health and Human Services, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Strategic National Stockpile, and the Buy American Act. HHS, the CDC, and a spokesperson for the Strategic National Stockpile say the N95 masks that the federal government is sending out were made in the U.S. On the HHS website, it states, these American-made N95 masks are being distributed from the Strategic National Stockpile. According to the SNS, the masks in the stockpile adhere to the Buy American Act, which requires the federal government to buy American-made goods whenever possible. The law calls those goods domestic end products. The Buy American Act uses a two-part test to determine if an item is a domestic end product. 1, the article must be manufactured in the United States, and 2, excluding iron and steel products, the cost of domestic components in the product must exceed 55% of the total cost of all the components. But there is one caveat. If the government is purchasing a commercially available off-the-shelf product, like these masks, then Part 2 is waived. Legal experts in the field say that means a product that is purchased by the government under the Buy American Act could have components that were made in other countries. But those pieces would have to undergo a significant manufacturing process in the U.S. to qualify under the BAA. A full list of the mask manufacturers and models in the stockpile is listed on the CDC website. Verify reached out to all 4 manufacturers, and we can verify that yes, all of the free N95 masks supplied to the federal government were manufactured in the U.S. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Daytil.
Lawmakers will meet again tomorrow and could give final approval to a plan bringing mobile sports betting to Arkansas. The proposal passed out of the legislative subcommittee last week, but still needs to be voted on by the full committee. If it clears that hurdle, sports betting apps could go live as early as next Friday. Casinos in the state estimate they could see over 7 figures from March Madness alone if it passes. So we're talking about more than $1 million. We'll keep you updated on if and when that vote happens. Electric cars are taking over the oldest and longest running auto shows in North America. The impact they're having on automakers coming up. Nathan.
Seen a lot of clouds out there today, along with some spotty showers and drizzle. Tomorrow, it's going to be temperatures probably well into the 70s. Then much colder air arrives going to the middle part of the work week. And along with that, a chance of winter weather for parts of the state. I'll explain what we've got coming our way next.